You're listening to The Dr. Shoup Show.
Critics love this show.
Let's get back to improving your life with exclusive information and consultation. Here's Dr. Randy Shoup.
The consensus from the Academy of Biomimetic meeting, and they drove this point home all over the place. The more research that is coming out from around the world, the more information about tooth-colored restorative materials, tooth-colored filling materials. And that can be tooth-colored filling materials that are done right in the office, and tooth-colored filling materials that are in the form of an inlay or an onlay. Some of these are porcelain. Some of these are lucite with porcelain in them. Some of these are lucite with Kevlar fibers in them. All of these tooth-colored restorations, none of them, I repeat, none of them are crowns. All of these are either direct tooth-colored fillings. That is where the dentist cleans your tooth up very conservatively, and there are new specific principles that the dentist needs to follow to be to create these biomimetic restorations. And so it's not what they've taught you in dental school. That's for darn sure. If you do it the way you do it in dental school, you will make a massive hole in somebody's tooth, and then have to worry about filling it. So all of these new tooth-colored materials, whether they are tooth-colored fillings that you put in the tooth in the office, or it is a tooth-colored filling or an inlay or an onlay that is done by a laboratory and then comes up, nowhere in the conversation is anybody recommending crowns. We are doing fewer and fewer and fewer full coverage crowns. That's where they take your tooth and they take a great big diamond drill and they grind your tooth down to a little tiny nub, and then they make a whole new top on it. That is about as much destruction as you can possibly do to a human tooth. And that somebody says it's okay. And nowhere in any of the data, any of the research, does any of it support that's a good thing to do. It is as ancient as Conestoga covered wagons going across the prairie. It's as ancient as the 8-track tape player in your car. It's just old. It's old school. It's old thinking. So we don't do that. The second big thing that came out of this conference, despite all of the literature, despite all of the advertising in the literature, despite all the fact of it from a convenience point of view, everybody wants it, none of the what's called bulk filling material for tooth-colored filling material works long-term. It'll work short-term. You can put this stuff in somebody's tooth, and it'll look nice for 6 months, maybe 9 months, maybe a year, and then they all start to deteriorate. If you are having tooth-colored fillings done on your teeth, then you absolutely want to require that the dentist layer these filling materials in there. They don't just fill it all up in one big chunk and shine the light on it. They put a little bit in, shine the light, a little bit more, shine the light, a little bit more, and slowly work their way up to where the tooth is filled, the hole is filled in your tooth. That is the only way current material that we have available works long term. You're listening to the Dr. Randy Shoup Show. I'm telling you about the really important findings from the Academy of Biomimetic Dentistry meeting where I taught and learned last weekend. The third thing, you do not chase cracks in somebody's tooth. We talked about it in Dental School 101, but that was a big thing that came out of this consensus. There is no data that indicates that if you have a crack in your tooth, the dentist is obligated to go grind the crack away. Exactly the opposite is what needs to have happen. Leave it alone. It's probably part of a natural process. And number two, you do not have to have a crown done on top of your tooth if your tooth has a crack in it. There's no data that suggests, A, the tooth is stronger because we know you've ground it down to a nub, and there's no data that suggests suggest that the tooth is healthier because actually the tooth has a greater susceptibility to bad things happening to it once you grind it down to a nub. The last thing, and this is the most important, when your dentist touches your tooth with a drill, the dentist should absolutely immediately seal over, protect the delicate innards of your tooth with a bonding sealing material. And I will tell you this, 98% of the dentists on the planet don't do this. But this is what biomimetic is all about. When you have somebody grinding on your tooth, the naked innards of your tooth are all exposed to the world, exposed to the bacteria in your saliva. If you don't seal that tooth up so that the bacteria can't get down inside of it, you are absolutely waiting for a massive problem to happen. So there you have it.
You're listening to the Dr. Shoup Show. Exclusive insider info, audio, and video is online now at ddsradio.com.